Take 3. Okay. Wow. I want to struggle to record this video. I've been speaking to myself and I was not recording. What? All right, let's do this. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Life with Cass. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us, and if you've been here, thank you so much for returning. So today we're going to talk about why buying a house in your young age, especially your 20s, is important. So today I'm going to give you 5 steps in which you can do this and achieve this. It is not as complicated as people make it look, but it does take a lot of investment, and it does take some sacrifice, especially if you do not come from a rich background. So we're going to get right into the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So I have a set of, I have a set of things that you need to do in order to buy a house in your 20s, or actually at any age. The steps are the same whether you do it in your 40s or in your 20s. The benefit of doing it in your 20s, especially if you're not doing it paying cash, is that you get to pay it off sooner. You don't want to be spending your whole life paying a house off, and you also don't want to start late, because at every stage in your life there's a different set of priorities. So it's very important for you to make sure that you set your priorities and you know exactly what you need to do at which stage in your life. A lot of people spend a lot of time and waste a lot of people waste a lot of time renting. They also waste a lot of time not saving up or investing. One thing about property is that you can never go wrong. Okay, property is an investment. Property is something that is always going to appreciate, unlike a car that depreciates. So a house is a very important investment to make, especially earlier on in your life. This video is for smart money people that want to make sure that their money works for them and not they work for their money, because you don't want to work for your money your whole life. First things first, you need to have a goal. You need to have a plan. Even way before you want to invest into a property, you need to have a vision, a plan. What do you want? What type of property do you want first? You need to first establish what type of property you want. Does it have to be standalone? Do you want a cluster? Do you want a townhouse? Where do you see yourself staying? You need to envision that. Once you've done that, you need to know the way. Okay, you need to identify a potential location where you want to stay. You need to consider things that you need to consider when you're identifying a location is the crime rate. We know we live in South Africa. Let's not act like we don't know that our crime is on crazy. So you need to ensure that, okay, how high is the crime in this area? Do your research on that. Ask people that you know that stay in the area. Ask people that stay in that area in terms of burglaries or whatever. Just do your research on the area that you want to stay, especially with crime, guys. You do not want to go stay in an area where you get robbed or mugged every 5 to 11. Crime is everywhere, but there's areas where crime is more prevalent than others. So you need to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. And also, the level of crime sometimes has a negative impact to the value of your property. Very important. You need to be sure that you are in close proximity to shopping centers, to schools, to hospitals, and police stations. Those are super important things. You need a shopping complex almost daily. Schooling, if you have kids, that's like a no-brainer. You need to make sure that there's good schools around you where your children can attend. You do not want to be traveling 2 hours in case of an emergency to a hospital. So those things are super important to take into consideration when planning for your potential property. Remember, we are planning. We are in the planning phase. This is very important, guys. Another thing is, when you are in your planning stage, you need to have a set date or a timeline. When do you want to buy your property? You need to already envision this. You need to plan it out, because there's a lot of things that need to take place before you actually buy your property. Unless you are moneyed and you come from a lot of money, then obviously money is not a thing you can just pop it, you know. So you need to have a set timeline by when you want to buy your property. I remember with myself, I was in varsity when I already planned or decided in my head that by the time I turned 23, I want to be out of my mom's house. So I only achieved my goal at 24, which was a year later, but I still achieved the goal. The goal is to actually achieve your goal. Even if it takes you a little longer than what you anticipated, as long as you get there. That's what's important. As long as we get to the vision, as long as we get to the plan. So most people plan their lives by writing it down or making notes. I don't write things down. I feel like it's time wasting. So I usually have my visions and my plans or my goals in my head, and I just check on myself from time to time. The thing is to have accountability with yourself and your goals and your plan, and to be accountable to why you're not achieving what you need to achieve, and just make adjustments around that. But we are not here to talk about plans. Let us move. Next thing is checking your credit score and knowing what your credit score is. So obviously when you start working, or before you start working, you do not have any credit because you're not active in the financial markets. You're not out here spending money or spending credit. So it's super important to make sure that you know where your credit is at and where you want it to be. The goal is to get your credit as high as possible, your credit score as high as possible. I will drop some links below on where you can check your credit score. I know there's clearscore.com and there's also TransUnion, but I will drop the links below in the description box for you. So credit is a good thing. I know a lot of people will tell you, oh, credit is bad, credit, don't use credit, don't do this with credit. Credit is very good. You just need to know how to manage your credit. Lots of people misuse their credit and then they end up thinking it's a bad thing to know. You need to be accountable. You need to be smart money, okay? Like we said, smart money is everything. So you need to be accountable to how much you spend and how much you can afford to spend. So it doesn't mean that FNB offers you a credit card worth 250,000, you need to take it. You need to look at yourself, look at your finances and say, this is how much I can afford to spend on a monthly basis to pay my bills. And that's where it starts. You do not want to be living your whole life paying debt, okay? That's not what you want to work for. You want to work, pay your debt, and still have money to do other things. Because the point of having credit is not to misuse it. The point of having credit is to help you in the long run so that you are able to acquire financing for buying a house, buying a car, so that the bank or the financial institutions are able to trust you. That is the whole point of you getting credit. It's not because you want to go buy alcohol and swipe your credit card, no. Okay? A credit is super important. Even when you are traveling, most people will tell you, most places will ask you for a credit card in order for you to rent a car. But that's a story for another day. We're not there. But that's a story for another day. But make sure that your credit is good. Make sure that you pay your bills on time, because when you pay your bills has an impact on your credit score. So if your bills are due on the 1st and you decide you want to pay your bills on the 5th, that has a negative impact on your credit score. Also, people that want to reverse payments that have been made to a particular bill, that has a negative impact on your credit score. Not paying your bill for like 2 months has a very negative impact. Those financial institutions will not trust you, because all of these things are recorded. so there's no way you can hide from it and think, this month I'm not gonna pay, I'll pay next month. These people see everything, okay? There's a whole bureau for credit. What is it called? NCR, National Credit. NCR. These people see everything, so you make sure that you pay your bills on time without fail. Therefore, you will have a good relationship with credit. Don't take credit as a bad thing. It's always a good thing, because you always need money here and there and for other investments as your life will progress, especially if you want to get into business. Another thing you want to do is start saving money, okay? There are a lot of hidden costs that comes up when you are buying a property. There are a lot of hidden costs. The cost that you will need to budget for when you are buying a property is depending on your credit score. It's not always a requirement, but depending on how good your credit is, most financial institutions will ask you for a deposit, and they will stipulate how much you need to pay in order to get a certain percentage of financing from them. So it's not always a requirement, but most of the time it is. But sometimes it is for certain individuals, and some people opt to pay a deposit so that they can ensure that they bring their monthly installments down, so that they don't have to pay that much. So a deposit is one of the things that you need to budget for, just in case it's a requirement or it's something that you want to pay. Another thing is, depending on the value of your property, if your property is over 750,000 Rand in South Africa, I don't know about other countries, you need to pay transfer duty costs. That is a sort of tax that you pay to SARS, depending on because we are taxed for everything, honey. Unless you're buying a brand new development, most of the time with the brand new developments, regardless of the cost, they'll tell you that there's no transfer duty. That's how they get their people to buy, yeah. So so another costing that you need to take, that you're definitely going to pay, regardless of how much your property is, you are definitely going to pay transfer costs. So these are the costs that you pay the conveyancing attorneys to do all the paperwork and all the transferring, to do all the transfer paperwork, to transfer the house from the seller to the buyer's name. So those are the transfer costs that you will pay to the conveyancing attorneys. And then you also have bond registration fee that you pay to a different set of attorneys to register the bond into your name. So if you're financing your house, obviously there's a bond that you need to register, as well as with the deeds office, they need to transfer the title deed from the sellers to the buyer, as well as the municipal accounts, your water and lights and all of those things need to be transferred into your name as the buyer. So those are all the costs that you will need to pay. Transfer costs as well as bond registration costs can range anything from 8,500 Rand up, and it all depends on how much your property is actually worth. One thing that people don't know is that you can also negotiate with the lawyers to bring down the cost a bit. So when you're buying a property, take that into consideration, try your luck, and everything is negotiable. One thing I can tell you, everything is negotiable. So negotiate yourself to get lower costing on those fees. When you need to buy a house, mandatory cost that you need to have is life and homeowners insurance. That is insurance on you as the person that is taking the loan out or the bond out with the financial institution. This is just to protect the financial institution's money, to say that they've borrowed you 700,000 and should you die and you still owe 500,000, that money will be paid by that insurance. Should you become disabled and you're unable to work, then they are able to pay your bond off. So it's not a liability to them. So that is a mandatory when you're applying for any bond or financing that is mandatory, and I know they've also made that mandatory when you are buying a car these days. So that is a cost that you need to consider when you are buying a house. Another cost that might come in is occupational rent. This is when you decide to move into the house before the transfer has been made final into your name. So then you will have to pay a rental amount for you taking occupancy before the house has been transferred to your name. I would not recommend you do this unless you really need to get out of where you're staying before the transfer is complete. Transfers usually take anything from 1 month to 3 months. It only takes longer in special circumstances, but most of the time it takes 3 months to do the whole transfer situation from the seller's to the buyer's name. So occupational rent for me is not really a necessity. You need to try and save as much money as you possibly can for when you are living in the house, because once you are staying there, you're gonna have monthly expenses, and staying on your own is not pap in place. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's not pap in place. It is not pap in place. It's serious, okay? But it's so worth it. The last thing is start buying small stuff before you move. Way in advance, okay? We've already planned and we've already determined that the goal is to buy a house. So you know you want to buy a house. So regardless of what type of house you are going to buy, every house needs certain things. Every house needs plates, you need cutlery, you need glasses, you need cups, you need cleaning products, detergents, whatever you may need. Start buying the small things, put them in a box, put them in your room, wherever you're staying, and you know that by the time you move, most of the small things are sorted out, because it becomes very overwhelming when you move in and you have to buy all of these things where you could have done it slowly. And if you have a place where you're staying and there's ample space, you can even start investing in bigger stuff. Things like fridges, couches, beds, whatever you may need. Just take into consideration when you buy things for your home, the color scheme that you are going for. Don't just buy things randomly unless you don't care about aesthetics and things like that. But buying plates, make sure you buy the plates that are all matching. Don't buy red plates, green plates, blue, unless you are buying sets of those. But just make sure that you take into consideration the design and color scheme and how you want your house to look. You can lay by things 6 months to a year in advance before you are planning to move, so that by the time you actually move, the bigger furniture or appliances are taken care of. By the time you move, you don't want to move in and then you don't even have a bed. Make sure that you put money away so that when you move in, you are able to buy all the furniture pieces that you will need or want, so that you can make your house a home. Also, a bonus tip for all my ladies especially, this is literally for all my ladies. Please, guys, if you are not married and you are not in a serious, stable relationship where you can see that this is the person you are going to marry, do not go into getting a bond or financing with a co-signer that is your boyfriend or your friend, because those sort of relationships can turn sour at any given moment. And you do not want drama in your life where you are forced to sell your house because now things have gone sour. So rather don't do that. Try by all means to get the financing for your property on your own, okay? Really, I see a lot of people doing this, and it's not cute when the relationship is not all hunky-dory and roses and petals, or whatever you may call it, when the romance has gone or the friendship has gone sour. So consider all of those things when getting into financing. If you really need a co-signer, get somebody like your mom or your dad, or somebody that you really trust, and somebody that will have your back no matter what, because you don't want that, okay? buying a property is an investment, and it should be a lifetime investment. Even if it's for business purposes, make sure it's with somebody that you can trust. And make sure if you are buying a property for passive income or investment purposes, make sure that you have a contract in place that is signed, sealed, and delivered. And make sure that you have all your legal things sorted out if the property is for investment purposes and income purposes. Don't just get into signing or co-signing properties with people because the relationship is great at the time. Make sure that relationship will stay great forever, okay? Yeah, so that is it from me, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like content like this, let me know in the comment section, and I will be sure to give you more. So I'll see you in my next video.